All right, hanging out in my garden, my very imperfect garden, especially this spring it seems for whatever reason. Um, and it's one of those, like, I guess, confessions of the imperfect gardener slash sharing information. Um, one, I have a video a few videos ago where I set out my cabbage, my broccoli, brassicas, all of those things. Um, I felt that I had hardened off my plants appropriately, and I think to an extent that I had. Um, and then my daughter and I laid a fabric, it's over there, a netting over my plants. But I don't have any wire, like you can use like a heavy gauge wire to make like an arch to hold the fabric up off the plants. I don't have that. I plan on getting it. I haven't gotten around to it yet. And so I just laid the fabric over it. And I remember thinking this last year, and then remembering this thing. When I set that fabric on top, the plants, like the leaves that are used to being able to be like this, have to be like this. And the leaf that's usually like this and then moving in the wind, so sometimes kind of shaded, sometimes not, is kind of laying flat and getting all the sun. So a lot of my plants burnt. So let me show you. So like this right here, this is sunburn. Now the center of this plant is good. So like these are the leaves that probably got more exposure to the sun because that's what was growing. This is what grew mainly inside. So some of my bigger plants, like this is a cabbage, this is gonna pull through. It just got knocked back some. Some of the plants that were a little smaller, although I do think that they're going to make it, look a little beat up. So like right here, these leaves on the outside aren't making it, but we are getting new growth. So even trying to be very intentional, because I made the mistake last year of setting them out and they ended up getting burnt and I lost a lot of my plants. So even trying to be more careful this year, I still burn them some. I do think it's the laying the fabric down so that they don't have the ability to kind of be as upright and makes them lay a little flatter. I do think that influences it. So there's that. And then I grew up in the area I grew up where my family farmed. The soil was very clayey, so it was very heavy and very dense. The soil here is very light. It's kind of like, you could almost, when you walk barefoot, it almost feels spongy. And it's awesome to work in. It's also awesome for moles and voles. They love the soil because it's so easy to burrow in. So I just came out to check the garden. So this bed here are my peas and radishes. I don't know if you can tell. You can tell something burrowed through right here. They were all through this bed. Now some of the stuff's going to be fine. Like this pea plant looks like it's going to be okay. You can see, how disturbed that was. But over here, we've got some radishes that are completely, basically uprooted, and I don't know if they're going to make it. I just saw a pea plant that's definitely not going to make it. So I know there's some things you can do. We tried one year, there's like these things you put in the ground that make like a beep sound that kind of like mess with, I guess, kind of the mole or vole's hearing or how they kind of navigate through the soil. So it messes with them, so they leave. There's also like the ornaments that like blow in the wind, that spin in the wind, kind of, you have like a pole sunk down in the soil, and when that rotates it vibrates, and again, same kind of thing. I keep meaning to get one of those, but I hate lawn ornaments. I always have. Nothing against those that have them, I just don't necessarily want them in my yard. So I want to find something that's very pretty that like fits me. And then I'm also cheap, so sometimes I find it and then I'm like, I'm not willing to buy it. So that is something I need to add to my garden, maybe several, to try to rid of those moles and voles, because they just disrupt the soil. It seems like they disrupt the plants. Like there's times I'll have seedlings come up and they'll burrow through and just disrupt that really little root, and then they just don't make it. The other thing that I've been pondering, pill bugs. Bet you I can find one, because we have a million of them. Those little bugs that roll up in a ball. The pill bugs, potato bugs. We have a ton of them. And I have read on them that sometimes you read and they say they are good because they're breaking up the dry matter. So like we mulch with leaves. So they're coming up, they're eating this dry matter, they're helping break it up, help breaking it down into soil. And then other things you read, they're like, they will destroy your plants, which I've seen happen. When I plant my tomatoes, they're usually really big, and I lay them on their side, so the ends on the soil, just like in the pot still, so the ends turn up, so that I can dig a hole and lay the whole stem, most of the stem and the root ball in the ground, and then just that little top sticks out. And they have eaten the stems, like bitten into the stems or eaten into the stems enough that it, like, the whole plant just wilts. I've seen it happen. So I'm curious, anybody out there, any thoughts on pill bugs, good, bad, organic ways to manage? I believe I've read some places where they say diatomaceous earth will work, and I've read other articles that say they just walk right through it and just eat your plants anyway. So anybody out there have thoughts on that? Okay, so two things I want to show you. We're closing up this video. I had skipped shooting footage of planting my onion sets, the ones like little ones that just look like little onions that don't have any green yet. I planted them around my Brussels sprouts, and here we are, poking up here. That's a weed, but they're coming along. Here are the Brussels. Now here is a reason I mentioned earlier my other stuff, my other plants burnt. This is why I think was the issue, or why I'm blaming putting the fabric over it. These, I planted these in a separate place, and so they just had, I didn't have like a little piece of the netting to put over it, so I didn't cover them yet. They didn't burn. The other stuff that had been outside the same amount of time did. So again, I think it has to do with the fabric kind of holding it in place and it not getting to adjust in the wind, and just always kind of being in the same position where the sun's hitting it kind of squarely. The other thing, this was in one of my videos, but it was in like the time lapse. My husband was cleaning out some of our like landscaping flower beds, and he found this, and we think this is so cool. So this was a part of a rose bush that he was pruning. This right here is an egg sac for praying mantises, and they are a fantastic predator bug. So we just brought this over here, and I set this on the ground next to my garlic, next to the brassica bed. So when they hatch, I'm hoping when they hatch, they can just help us keep our pest bugs under control naturally. Thanks for joining us.